Hello and welcome. Today's topic is Zustand, if I pronounced it right. So this is a simple yet really powerful library for state management, and I will use it with React to show you some cases that might be interesting to you. So the demo project will be, let's call it, the simplest social network that you have ever seen. I'm just kidding. We are going to have just a list of users which we are going to use in order to create a list of friends by selecting usernames, and we are going to get a fresh list of posts of those selected users. We will also be able to remove friends from the list because friendships don't last forever, unfortunately. And that would be it. Everything that you saw will be stored in the Zustand store. And let's get to work. I will be using create React app template project. And let's check what we have here. We have the app.js component. And I will start by creating a components folder. And inside that, I will create a users component. So it should be just a simple component with a template for displaying a list of users. So I will return an ordered list with list item. It will be empty for now. And above the component, I will import React. And down below, we can export this component as a default. I will use JSON placeholder as a fake API to get user data because I want to show you how asynchronous actions can be handled with Zustand. I will copy this URL for later. So let's first use the regular useState inside the component, and later we will move the state to Zustand so we can easily compare them. So I will create users state and set users method, and the default value will be an empty array. Then I will create a method for fetching users data from the server, and I will use JSON placeholder API endpoint. So the name of the method will be fetch users data, and it will be asynchronous method. So I will just use regular fetch method and provide the URL that I copied from the JSON placeholder website. The result from there will be stored in the variable, and I can use that for setting the users. I will call this method inside useEffect hook with the empty dependency array, so it will be called only once. I will not handle any errors for simplicity reasons. And now we can use users data in the template and display users as an unordered list. I will display a name for each user. And let's remove the default template from app.js and import the users component. We can also remove the logo. And if you open the page in the browser, you will see the list of users. So let's go back to the users component. I will basically move this part to Zustand, but first I will go to Zustand GitHub page. And you can find a bunch of stuff here that can help you with the state management. You can check it later on your own, but now I would like to add Zustand to this project. You can use npm install or yarn add, so depends on you. I will close the terminal, and now we are ready to use Zustand. So first I will create a folder called store, and inside I will create a useStore file, which will be a custom hook, and I will import create from Zustand, and basically I will initialize the global store. I will call the custom hook useStore, and I will call the create method, and here I will pass a callback function that should hold the object which is going to be our store. We will have set and get arguments in the callback function, but before using them I would like to modularize our store by using slices, and the first slice that I'm going to create will be in charge for users' data. So it will be responsible for manipulate data about the user in the separate part of the global store. Let's quickly go back to the useStore and export useStore as a default value. So for this slice I will create a function that will return an object, and it should be part of the global store. So the first property will be named users, and it will be an empty array, and it will be used instead of the local state of the users component. And now I will have like a separate function which will be called fetch users, and it will fetch data from the server and fill the users array. So I will just copy paste that part of the code, and instead of set users I will use the set method, which will be passed from the Zustand module, and I will be able to set global user state by calling that method and passing a new object. So this new object will have users property, and the value will be JSON from the server response. Now let's fill up the global store with this slice. So it will be separated by modules, which is really good for readability. I will spread the value that is returned from create user slice, which is an object that holds users data, and I will pass set and get method, and I will also need to import create user slice. And inside create user slice I will export this function by default. Now we are ready to replace the user's component state with the global state. So I will remove this part of the code, and I will select users from the global state in order to display that data in this component. I will create a variable called users, and it will use store, and it will have a callback function with a state as an argument, and I will just select users from there. So the other thing that is needed here is to fetch users, and I will use fetch users action, let's call it like that, from the global store. So I will use the same useStore hook and select fetch users from the state, which is a global state. So I want to call this fetch users action only once when the component is mounted, and in order to do that I will use useEffect with an empty dependency array. So the ESLint will complain about the fetch users. It will say that we need to include it into dependency list, and you can do it. It is perfectly safe. It will be triggered only once. And let's see our beautiful component in the action. So we have the list of users displayed. We have some missing keys. I will add that to the list item element, and I will use ID from the user. So yeah, everything seems to be fine. So I will go back to the create user slice and add a new entity, which will be friends. So when the user clicks on the single user, it will be added to the list of friends. Speaking about that, I will create a method called add to friends, and it will have a user as a parameter. And I will just call the set method, which is passed from the Zustand, and update the list of friends. So that will be a new array, which I'm going to fill with the existing friends. And I will use get method from Zustand, and with the spread operator, I will just get the items that are inside the friends array. And after that, I will just append the new user object to this array. So the get method will return the whole store, and I want to make sure that I only get the list of friends. Now let's create a component that will be responsible for displaying the list of friends, so we can test this add to friends method. And the component name will be friends, just like a TV series name. And we will make it super simple. It will have just a div wrapper element, heading, and iteration. So we also need to import React. And down there, I will export this component as a default module. So now I will use store hook in order to get a list of friends from the store. Now, for example, I can display the number of friends in the parentheses by calling friends.length, which will return the length of the array. And below the heading, I can iterate through the list, and for each friend I will display a span element with the name of the friend. And don't forget to add the key value, which will be the ID of the friend. So let's import the friends component into the app.js. And we have an error. It says that we forgot to import useStore in the friends component. So I will import that. And now it should be fine. I will check in the browser. We have the friends component, but we don't have any friends right now. So now is the perfect moment to include add to friends method from the create user slice. So I will attach onClick event listener and include add to friends method, which I need to select from the state by using useStore hook. Now we can pass the add to friends method and call it inside the onClick event handler and pass the user object. Let's see if it works in the browser. If I click on different users, they will be added to the list of friends. And we have a small bug. We can actually add the same user multiple times. And we want to make the list of friends to be an array of unique users. I will use the set object, which will make sure that data inside the array is unique. And later I will spread the value of set to the new array, which will basically return the array of unique values. And let's see how it works. If I click on the same user, it will be added only once. And eventually some of the friends made us angry and we want to remove them from the list. We need to have this X button. I will put it next to the span element, and we have an error which says, okay, we need to have only one parent element, so I can either use the fragment or put it inside the span. So I will put it inside the span element. And we have the magic button displayed, so we can continue with the method that will remove the friend from the list. I will name the method remove user from friends, and it will have the user ID as a parameter. So I will need to set a new value to the friends array, which will be the filtered data of the existing friends. So I will use get method from Zustand and access the friends array, and then I will call the filter method, which should return all the friends except the one with the user ID specified in the parameter. So remove user from friends will be included in the useStore hook, and I will include it into the friends component. And I will call it when the user clicks on the X button. So on the click event handler, I will call remove user from friends and pass the user ID. Let's see how it works in the browser. So now I'm able to add and to remove users from the list of friends. Now I will create another slice which will be included in this global store, and I will create post slice which will be responsible for storing posts data. So I will create a function that will return an object which will be a portion of the global store. So I will also have set and get method from the Zustand, and the posts will be an empty array for now, and I will have fetch posts method which will make a request to the server and fetch posts data and update the posts in the global state. Let's find the endpoint from the JSON placeholder. So here it is. So I will fetch data from this endpoint, and I will use set method in order to update the posts with the JSON that we get as a result from the server. Basically, it's the same as we currently have in the users slice. The thing that I missed here is to wrap the returning object into parentheses. So this function will return the object with the posts and fetch posts properties. Now I will create the posts component where I will display the list of posts. So I will have almost the same template as for the users. So I will have a div wrapper and also a heading element. And below the heading, I will create a list of posts. But first, let's export this function as a default. And also, I think I missed that in the create post slice. So we will also need to export default this function. And we can include it into the useStore hook and pass set and get methods from Zustand. So let's go back to the posts component and include fetch posts. So I will use useStore hook and select fetch posts from the global state, exactly the same as for the users module. So this is a perfect chance to practice this coding example. And I will also get posts from the store. And when the component is mounted, I would like to call the fetch posts method, so the posts will be filled with the new data. Let's also add fetch posts to the dependency array. Now I will display posts in the template, and for each post I will display the post title. So let's just check the name of the field. It is title, and we also need to add the key to the li element. Let's also include this post component into the app.js component, and we need to import that from the correct path. And let's see how it looks in the browser. We have list of posts. So now you learned how to combine different slices into one global store, which can be useful if you have different entities in your global state. Now let's say that we want to see only the posts that are created by our friends. So I will create a new field which will be named posts from friends, and it will be an empty array. And now I would like to filter the posts data by the list of friends. So I will basically go through the list of posts and check if there is any post with the user ID that belongs to any of our friends. So I will use the get method and access posts, and I will call the filter method, and now I will iterate through the list, and I will use another get in order to get list of friends, and I will use find method where I will search for the friend with the user ID that comes from the post. So this seems to be a little bit complicated, but still I want to show you how you can combine different slices and access different entities with the get method. I will store the result of the filter in the variable called posts from friends, which should return the new list of posts which are created by our friends. Now the easier part will be to update the state with the new value, and I will use set method and just pass a new object with posts from friends. So in the posts component, I will replace posts with the posts from friends. And if you check in the browser, the list of posts will be empty. And if we add users to the list of friends, it will remain empty. So nothing is going to change. So the reason for that is because posts from friends array is not going to be updated when something is changed in the posts or in the friends array. We can create a special helper for that, and I will create a new folder called reactors, because here I will create some custom hooks that will be responsible to react on certain changes in the global state. So the hook that I'm going to use will be named useFriendsPostsReactor. First, I will include friends from the global state by using useStore. And also posts with the same useStore hook. And I will also include posts from friends which I want to return later from this custom hook. I will also use useStore. And now below this useStore block, I will use useEffect in order to call filter posts by friends inside. And I will specify dependency array to contain a list of friends and list of posts. But I will also need to include filter posts by friends. So dependency array will contain filter posts by friends method, then the friends array and the posts array. So every time something is changed in friends or posts, the filter method will be triggered, and then I will return fresh data from posts from friends state. I will also need to import React and use store hook. And I will also export this function as a default. Now we can use this custom hook inside of the posts component. So I will replace this posts from friends to use friends posts reactor, which will return fresh data when something is changed. And we can also rename the variable name. Now, as we are changing the list of friends, the posts data is being updated. Thank you for watching this video. If you find it useful, please share it and subscribe to my channel.